What's up, everybody? Welcome back. It's Monday. We were about 30 minutes getting late started with the show today because Matt and I were trying to, unscrew ourselves with our live stream, and we were unsuccessful. We have the webcam set up, but it's not in an ideal location. So if you're watching us, what's up? And we will do better next time. So here's what happened. I have a program that I run. I found out the most effective and efficient way to stream the show with a one-camera stream, just a simple stream to set up, is to run all the audio from the studio into the computer and then get a product called Epoch Cam for my cell phone. And it will send a 1280, basically an HD stream wirelessly on an internal network from my cell phone to the computer, and so I get this beautiful HD stream. Doesn't require me to connect anything to the computer. It's all it's all good. And so I'm using this thing, and then all of a sudden I'm going through my updates, and it says, "Oh, you need to update your software." And I said, "Okay, no problem." So I just did it, and along with all the other apps on my phone. And whatever they did, their quality control is crap because it just totally destroyed the connection. It won't connect now, and it only gives me a square. It doesn't give me like 16:9 video format, and so I'm trying to find a workaround today, and I grabbed the 4K webcam that I've got, and I said, I'll just set this thing up in the studio, and then of course I didn't bring the tripod that I normally use because I didn't have all the other stuff together, so I'm running way behind. We had a lot of stuff in our Monday meeting that we were covering today, and I was more concerned about that, of course, than apparently getting you guys video, but it's still crystal clear, and you can still see us. So you still get to interact, and really glad that you guys are with us today, and glad that all of you are listening. Today at 4 p.m., I'm going to be doing my live stream to the private members group, and I'm going to be answering your questions. Lots of great questions in there, and I'm looking forward to that. So if you want to, that's 4 p.m. Pacific time, so most of you all, if you're not on the West Coast, will be off of work and able to tune in live to listen, and really looking forward to having you all there. Before we get started today, it's funny because Matt and I were talking before the show about the Game Changers book and about the negativity that we tend to put in our brains and how he kind of focuses on just the positivity and the specific words that we shouldn't use. And those words are, what do they say? The words are can't, need,
try, and
what was the last one? Can't is something that I've told my kids that for years, is that we don't say can't. We can say I won't or I choose not to, but you can't say I can't.
Well, and even in a technical sense, he broke down when you say can't, typically what you actually mean is I don't have the skills to do this, or I haven't learned how to do this yet, or someone else is better suited to do this than I am, or something like that. So in a very technical sense, can't just isn't even true. And the fourth word was bad.
Fourth word was bad, yeah. So we don't use can't, and I love try. When he said try, I'm like, you're right. When somebody says they're going to try and do something, it's basically a cop-out. It's an uncommitted response. It says, oh, yeah, assuming that nothing else goes wrong or I have the time, I'll see what I can do. If you're really committed and really determined to doing something, you don't say, I'm going to try and do this. You say, I'm going to do this. And so, I don't know, I was really impressed with his book. We're trying to get him on, and he wants some, their group wants.
We're going to get him on.
Well, we are. Yes, we are.
We are trying. Hang on. We're going to.
Right now, you're trying, but you've committed to do it.
Yes.
So right now, you're in the process.
Yes.
Because I actually have nothing to do with it, but they want some upgraded some information from us, and we're trying to get that over to them. But he's just a phenomenal mind, and it goes to something that I believed for a long time, which is I don't spend a lot of time with negativity. I don't put negativity into my brain. And this started a long time ago when I was learning about my health was suffering some because I've been working so long and so hard and at such long hours. I'd put on a lot of weight. I ballooned up to about 210, 215 pounds, something like that. And for reference, I'm roughly 175 pounds now. So I was just a little lovable little pudge ball at 215 pounds. And my health was suffering a little bit, and I started researching a lot of different remedies and getting healthier. And one of the things I got into was the Gershwin juicing cleanse and how they have used juicing to cure a lot of cancers and stuff. Massive doses of vitamin C and massive doses of vitamin A from carrot juice, and what that's done to the body in terms of the healing. And one of the things that I was researching with people who had beat cancer and had gotten over it, one of the things that they kept repeating was, I just stopped focusing on anything negative. All I watched were comedies. All I focused on was positive stuff, and I refused to let any negativity into my life because I didn't need it. And I'm just a firm believer that there's something in us that responds to positive and negative reinforcements at a subconscious level. It's the placebo effect, whatever it is, but if you're constantly putting negativity into your brain, if you're constantly being told and allowing yourself to reiterate what isn't possible, then you're highly likely to not accomplish anything that you want out of life. If you're constantly worried about getting cancer, I firmly believe the likelihood of you getting cancer goes up. And more importantly is that the quality of your life goes down regardless of whether or not you get cancer.
I think it probably has a lot to do with hormones, because then the things that you tell your brain it affects the way that your brain tells your body how to regulate various hormones, and then it's the different interactions between those hormones or the lack thereof that causes these maladaptive
to happen
developments in your body.
I have no doubt, absolutely no doubt that happens, and so I've just made a rule over the years that I don't watch movies where the one person's dying of cancer. You know, the love stories. Well, he still loves her even though she's got cancer and she's going to die.
Yeah, walk to remember story.
It was the beautiful love story. I'm like, no, she died at the end. I watched one the other day that was, and I was told it would not end the way it ended. I was told, I said, am I going to be depressed when I watch this movie? And I was told, no, this is a great love story. And at the very beginning, Gerard Butler dies. It's like P.S. I Love You is the name of the movie.
Yeah.
And right at the beginning, he dies. And the whole movie is her living life without him while he writes letters from beyond the grave. I'm like, this is awful. This is terrible. He didn't show up at the end. She still lives her whole life without the guy that she was in love with. I'm like, I don't want that. I don't want the story where the guy doesn't win. Like, I want the story where I want the Cinderella story where the guy was down and out, pulled himself up. I want Rocky, man.
The hero's
That's what
journey.
I want. I want the hero's journey. I want the rags to riches. That's what I want. And listen, it's not that I don't understand that it doesn't always work out, because it doesn't. And I've always said I may end up bankrupt, alone, basically penniless. But I said it won't be from lack of trying. Like, I won't look back on the end of my life and go, wow, man, if only I had done X, Y, and Z, if only I'd tried a little bit harder, if only I'd worked a little bit more, if only I'd risked. That will never be an issue for me. And I think that for a lot of people, there will be a lot of regret at the end of their life for things that not for things that they did, but for things that they didn't do. There are only really two things in my life that I adamantly regret having done. And both of them I feel so badly about that I won't even mention them on the air. Maybe someday you and I will know each other well enough, dear audience, for me to share those with you. But there are really only two things in my life that I adamantly regret doing. But I regret a lot of things that I didn't try to do or that I didn't risk enough on. So I've tried to make a decision never to be that person moving forward. And so if you guys haven't read the book, it's called Game Changers by Dan.
Dave Asprey.
Dave Asprey. Sorry, who's Dan Ariely or whoever I'm thinking of?
You
don't know? Okay, Dave Asprey. He's the guy who started Bulletproof Coffee, and just a great mind. But today I want to talk a little bit about some stuff that's going on in the world. Mainly, there was a strike. We've been watching this strike here in Los Angeles with the teachers union, and that is getting ready to kick off now. And so we've got the strike that's happening. We've got de Blasio's plan to guarantee health care for all in New York, and then a couple of other things. I just thought we'd see where the show went today, and to talk a little bit about. I've got a lot of stuff on my mind, and so we'll see what we get to, and we'll see where the show takes us today. But I want to tell you about some of our sponsors. First is Teeter. We were talking about this before the show. Both Matt and I have Teeter incline beds. And they're basically inversion tables. It turns you upside down, stretches your lower spine out. And for a guy like me who has a compressed lower spine from years of wearing body armor and running with that on and just destroying his back, it's like nothing you've ever experienced. If you've ever had spinal decompression done, if you have a sore back, if you've got joints that are locked up and that won't move, try this. It is absolutely one of the best things you can do for your body. I get to the point where I will do it every single day. And it doesn't take long. You don't have to spend a lot of time on it. Maybe 5 minutes inverted, 3 minutes inverted, whatever it is. And I can actually feel my spine popping as it stretches out and my spine realigns and adjusts.
It feels incredible.
Oh, it is. It's really one of the nicest things that you can do for yourself. And Teeter is the table to do. Both he and I both have Teeter tables, and they are incredible. I feel like a new man when I get off the thing, decompression on my spine. It's all good. It's also good for my shoulders. I'm actually reading from the deal here, and they said all the things that I already told you. So for a limited time, you can get Teeter's brand new 2019 upgraded model of the inversion table, the Teeter Fit Spine, with bonus accessories, Stretch Max handles, and Easy Reach ankle system, plus free inversion program mat with 24 illustrated stretches and exercises. Teeter inversion tables have thousands of reviews on Amazon and are rated a 4.6 stars. Get $150 off when you go to teeter.com/Stapleton. You'll also get free shipping, free returns, and a 60-day money-back guarantee. So the fact is, you go and buy this thing. If it doesn't do everything that Matt and I say it does, just return it and you get a full refund. And they're happy to do it. And I guess it's the mark of a good product. They're willing to give you your money back if you don't like it. Remember, you can only get the 2019 Teeter Fit Spine Inversion Table by going to teeter.com/Stapleton. That's TEETER.com/Stapleton. Then we also got Helix Sleep, one of my favorites. Do you have, you don't have a Helix Sleep. Do you have a Helix Sleep bed?
Yeah.
You do?
Yep.
Okay. So what do you think? You do it. Yeah, right?
It's amazing.
It's amazing, right?
Yes.
So did you guys get the, now you can customize it on either side of the bed. Did you guys, you didn't, you just got one straight bed.
Yep.
I absolutely love this bed. The one that we had prior to me getting the Teeter, you actually rolled into the middle of the bed. It was a bed in a spare bedroom that, just kind of rolled into. And this is by far one of the most comfortable nights of sleep I've ever had. And right now, you can get your customized Helix Sleep bed by going to helixsleep.com/Stapleton. Take their 2-minute quiz, and they will match you to the mattress that will give you the best sleep of your life. Right now, Helix Sleep is offering $125 off all mattress orders. Get up to $125 off at helixsleep.com/Stapleton. That's helixsleep.com/Stapleton for $125 off your mattress order. helixsleep.com/Stapleton. Really love this company. We are blessed, I guess, at this show to all the advertisers we have are really good products. I hear this stuff. I've seen some stuff advertised on other shows, and I'm like, that's just garbage. And I rarely have to turn down anything. I will normally say no to anything that has to do with investing because that requires under scrutiny that doesn't typically hold up not because the company is necessarily a bad company, but because they really can't provide the type of guarantees that I would want in order to share it with my audience. So, which is completely understandable. But in most cases, the companies that have come to us, I never have to say no to because they're awesome companies. And so every single thing that we advertise on here, I either have used personally or it's something that I don't need. Like I already have life insurance, so I don't go to Policy Genius, but that I watch what other people are doing, or I've tested the product out to see what it's like so that you guys know that it's something that I've looked at. I do not just willy-nilly say, they don't just tell me what the advertisers are. I guess that's what I'm saying to you. I actually look at every single one of them. I test the products. I have them send me stuff. And speaking of that, Constance Schwartz Marini, and I forgot your stuff because it's at my place. There's a big stack of it. But she sent over a bunch of like underwear and what are essentially long johns, I guess. And I threw those on last night. Dude, they're so nice.
Snuggly,
it's
huh?
like it's like I was wearing nothing. It really was.
You aren't going to send that pair to me, right?
No, I was. Well, no, that's not for you.
Yeah.
But there is. Good. I'm giving you your own version of that.
Oh, awesome.
You try that whenever you want to. But yeah, no, it was like wearing clothes, but not. And dude, it was the most comfortable thing. I'm so glad that she was willing to do that. And I got to get the name of it so we can promote it on the show because, dude, she was nice enough to send it to me. I might as well give her a plug. It's really great clothing. But I don't know. We try all the stuff on this show, and I absolutely love it. So let's talk for a minute about this teacher strike. Los Angeles School District teachers are now striking for the first time in 30 years. And there are massive rains happening right now. Have you seen, are there any mudslides? I'm sure there are.
Sure, yeah.
I went up to...
Especially where all the fires were?
Yeah. Well, I drove up PCH and the 101 yesterday to Santa Barbara. And you could see where they had actually had mudslides from earlier, and they were setting up mudslide walls to try and protect against the onslaught of the mud that was coming down. But there's massive rains here in Southern California right now, and the teachers union also started their strike today. Last time they struck was in 1989. The 30,000 teachers represented by United Teachers of Los Angeles will go on strike after 21 months of failed negotiations. And so we need to talk about a few things as it relates to collective bargaining and as it relates to really, I want to look at this mainly not in terms of right or wrong, because it's a matter of influences and what they're doing, because you will tend to, based on how you believe about this stuff, will tend to fall in favor of or one side or the other. And we're dealing really with unions and with government. And in this case, I don't really care for either one, and so I don't really think that there's a right or I really don't think there's a right or a wrong person in this. But you need to understand what's at play and what both sides are telling you in order to try and gain public sentiment. So you have the teachers union, which is requesting a lot of extra money. They're trying to request like a 6.5% pay increase across the board that comes all at once. So they want a 6% pay increase. They also want more people hired at the school. So they want better libraries, more librarians, more teachers, more counselors and nurses. So they want a lot of these people, and they've been arguing with the government for the last 21 months, and now negotiations have finally broke down, and the teachers are striking. So let's start out talking about collective bargaining in general. Is there anything wrong with collective bargaining? Well, no, there's not. It's a very free market principle that says if the 3 or 4 or 5 of us who do the bulk of the work at the company decide that we are not being paid enough relative to what the company is earning, we have every right to come together and say, if you don't give us raises, we are going to quit or we're going to stop working until you choose to give us what we want. And this has been done for a long time, and there are times throughout history when it's been a very good thing. In the turn of the century, with factory workers and the amount of just the living conditions, the working conditions that they were under, were really, I mean, frankly, they were just criminal. You can always quit the job, but the point I'm trying to make is they really were substandard working conditions. And them binding together and saying we're not going to work unless you fix these problems is absolutely a free market principle that everyone should support. What you also have to support, if you're going to support that, is number one, the right of someone not to join the union. And secondly, you have to also support the employer's right to simply fire all of them and to hire new people. See, when the transit authority, was it Reagan who said, it was Reagan in the 1980s, that you had a strike in the subway system or something in New York. I think that was what it was. You can look it up while I'm talking, but I'm pretty sure it was a subway strike. And Reagan basically came in and said, okay, yeah, it's absolutely your right to strike, but if you do, and you're not at work tomorrow, you're fired. And we will hire all new people to replace you because I'm not going to deal with this. You're not going to hold the entire city hostage because you just decided you wanted to angle for more money.
1980 New York City transit strike.
Yeah, New York City transit strike. So he said, look, fine. I'm not going to tell you you can't strike, but if you don't show up for work, you're fired. Now, a lot of people would say, that you shouldn't, the employer shouldn't be allowed to do that. And that's ridiculous. This is a symbiotic relationship between the employer and the employee. They need each other. The employer cannot work at scale without the employee. However, there is a limit to what the employee can ask for in terms of compensation, because if he doesn't produce more than he consumes in terms of his productivity, then he's not a viable employee anymore.
It was the air traffic controllers.
Was it the air traffic controllers? Okay,
Amy
I thought it was.
just messaged me
I thought
and
it was
said
the
that.
subways, but which doesn't make sense in my mind, which is why I had you check on it, because that would have been a city thing. But the air traffic controllers then decided they were going to strike.
That was in '81, so it was the year after the transit strike.
And he just basically said, "Yeah, I'm not going to let you. You could do that if you want to, but you're out of a job." I don't know how it would have worked if they hadn't shown up for work. I mean, I don't know if there's that many guys waiting in the wings for air traffic controller jobs that they could have gotten planes back in the air.
That's like one of the most stressful jobs.
It really
it's like
is.
the highest suicide rate or something.
It's an extremely stressful job. But I don't know how it would have worked if they would have quit, if they would have called him on the carpet, but they didn't. They showed up to work, and they continued to negotiate through the through the process. And I wish that more companies would choose to operate that way. The fact is, if you are a dock worker who unloads boxes, you are an important part of that company. That doesn't mean you deserve $25 an hour and a pension and vacation time and free health care provided by the company. That's not what that means. You have a value to the company, but that value has a number, and you can't exceed that.
The reason that value isn't super high is because the skills that you're offering, the value you're offering to the employer, is pretty replaceable.
Correct.
There's your
anybody
value,
with a strong back can do what you do.
Exactly. So if you have a job where the standard for entry is pretty low, that basically anybody with some basic qualifications can do it, then you don't have much bargaining power, because you're easily replaceable by someone else. So it's your responsibility to make yourself so integral to the company that it raises your value by increasing your own human capital.
Well, I have to tell you, I don't have a lot of sympathy for somebody who's lived in this country their whole life, who's still working at a job where they make, $8.50 an hour or $10 an hour. So look, if you're over the age of 30 and you're still working a job where you make $10, $10 an hour, I'm sorry, dude, something went wrong for you, because you've had enough working life that you should have been able to move up the ladder. If you're still stocking shelves during the night shift at Target and you're 32, okay, don't cry to me that you don't make enough money, because you have had opportunity that you've just squandered, or you've made some very wrong turns in your life. And the great thing about it is you can still recover from that. But you are the idea is the idea of a minimum wage is that one person could not starve on that wage. That's what a minimum wage was designed to do initially. It's like, hey, you have to pay somebody enough that they're not starving.
Actually, if you go back further than that, the purpose of it was to price out recently freed slaves.
Well,
from the market.
yes, we can actually go all the way back and talk about that. But the way that it was pitched, and the idea is that, hey, at least if you're making a minimum wage, you're not going to starve. You're not going to be rich. You're not even maybe going to be comfortable, but you won't starve. And now a minimum wage has been, you can't support a family of 4 on a minimum wage job. It's like, no kidding, you can't. Why do you have a family of 4 working a minimum wage job?
Why did you decide to have these children if you can't support them?
Exactly. And listen, my point is this. We make decisions. We make choices in our lives, and those choices have consequences. And if you decided at the age of 18 to have 3 kids, and now you're 25 and you can't support them because you didn't go to college and you got a factory job and the factory got you laid off, and you've made decisions in your life that put you in the position that you're in now, and is nobody else's responsibility to shelter that burden for you.
By trying to strong-arm someone else into paying you more money without you bringing more value to the table, you're saying that someone else needs to take up the slack for the bad decisions you made.
That's exactly it's exactly right. You're essentially saying you should pay for my bad decisions or for my inadequacy and my failures. And you can't do that in a free market. So when it comes to collective bargaining, it's completely acceptable for them to do it. It's also acceptable for the company to say, you are not worth what you're asking for, and I'm just going to hire some people who want a job a lot more than you do. And I think that we find ourselves in a position, many of us, when we have a job, we think that's our job. We think that we own that job. Oh, it was given to us, and therefore, I've learned it. I've worked here for 15 years. I've invested in this company. Well, 2 things wrong. Number one is that it's not your job. It's your employer's job. The person who created the job, that's whose job it is. And the second thing is, you didn't invest in that company. You worked there. You traded your time and your labor for a paycheck. You made no investment in the company. You didn't buy stock in it. You didn't buy shares in the company. If you did, then you're receiving a dividend off of those shares, assuming that the company is doing well. But you didn't invest in the company just because you spent 15 years there.
The company invested in you.
The company invested in you. And the company takes on a massive amount of risk by having you there. This is another thing that I didn't understand is because we tend to look at the company as having all the power, and the individual doesn't have any of the power. We were running through stuff today before the show started, and I was giving Amy just this laundry list of things that she has to accomplish. I mean, really, it's a lot of stuff, and it's a lot of stuff she hasn't ever done before. But the great thing about it is that if she invests the time to learn how to do it and to do it well, it's a skill set that will carry forward for her for the rest of her life. Like she will forever know and have an ease of working with the internet and working with page design and understanding funnels and how products are built out that very few people understand.
That's a high value skill.
It's a very high value skill.
It's not easily replaceable.
No, it's not. And so two things always concern me. Well, number one, she's getting paid to do that. So she's learning a new skill and she's being paid to learn the new skill. She keeps the skill forever, okay? And she gets paid on top of that. The second thing that's really valuable there and that worries the crap out of me is that once she's the only person who does that and the only person who knows how to do it, she's made herself indispensable to me. I can't get rid of her. It's like I used to tell Darren, I couldn't fire Darren if I wanted to when he worked for me. Like if he had come to me and said, I want double the pay, I would have had to figure out a way to do it. I would have had to take less money because nobody knew the company the way he did. Nobody could do it the way he did. It's one of the reasons that Tier 1 Trading, which is where he and Akil and Jason Greystone went after they left Trade Empowered, it's one of the reasons why it's become so successful is because Darren knew that company inside and out. And they're number two, they're all ethical people, extremely ethical people. But so I'm both paying Amy to learn a skill that's going to be massively valuable to me, but now I'm also at the same time putting myself in a very precarious situation because once she's doing that, she's taking that burden off of my back, she's not easily replaceable. And the thing that I have never understood about the way people look at companies is if you fire somebody from a job, the government says, oh, you've got to have just cause. You've got to have a track record of you telling them to do stuff and they didn't do it. And then you've got to give them 2 weeks notice. You've got to give them 18 chances before you can actually fire them. Yet that guy can walk into work tomorrow and say, you know what? I'm done here. Give no notice, walk out the door, leave the company high and dry, and that company has absolutely no recourse at all. None. And you have no idea what kind of damage that can do, especially to a small company. One of the things that I'm adamant about as we launch JasonStapleton.com and the new influence programs that we're putting together is I want a track record of how everybody does everything. So inside of our Google Drive account is literally, hey, this is how I book a guest on a show. Here's how I build out a landing page. Here's how, we track all of it in video and in written form so that just in case Matt gets hit by a bus tomorrow, somebody else can step in and at least understand how he books guests on the show.
Hey, I'm choosing to focus on positive things.
Yes, I think very
uplift
well.
my mind.
Yeah. So we really need to understand that there is a symbiotic relationship between employer and employee. No one has power over the other unless your skill set is so limited and in such low demand that you really can't go across the street and get another job. Because, and this is something to think about too, if you work in a job and you can't quit that job today, walk across the street and start making more money, then you are already being paid more than you should be. Really? Right? You're already in a really good position if you understand what I'm saying. Because if where you're working currently pays you better than the guy across the street and that's why you're at the job, then the employer's under no obligation to pay you more just because you've worked there longer. And he has no obligation to pay you more just because you've stayed at the company. You have to constantly figure out a way to provide more value for the work that you do or for the company that you're working for. And the problem with the teachers union, this is the issue that I have with it. The problem with the teachers union is there is a limited amount of value that they can provide. If you are a ninth grade math teacher teaching algebra. Okay? You teach algebra. That's it. There's a flat rate for that. Based on the number of other teachers who teach algebra, how easy it is to replace your skill set will determine how much money you make. And we cranking out teachers every single year to replace you. So it makes it very difficult for you to come back and say, no, I deserve 10% more than you're paying me now. Because we got people coming out of school every year looking for jobs that would gladly take your job for the money that you're being paid. And so the union in this case is trying to extract more money than the teachers are worth for the investment, for the time that they're investing. And unfortunately, that is a drag on everybody. And since the government runs the education business here in California, and make no mistake, it is a business. Since the government runs the business and the business is paid with tax dollars, what the teachers union is attempting to do is fleece you, the taxpayer, of your hard-earned money by being paid more than the market will bear for the service they provide. You can't do that. We got to fight that. Doesn't matter whether there's money there or not to do it. If you have a surplus number of teachers who are willing to come work for the money that they're being paid, then there's no reason to pay them any more money. So I don't know. Do you have thoughts on this?
The only thing that I think about is what's happening to the kids in all of this, because now these teachers are bailing, and I've actually got kind of some close experience with it because Amy has worked with the school districts with working with special needs kids, and in her experience, when these types of strikes and stuff happen, the kids are still coming in, and then they're just sitting in the classroom watching movies all day.
Yeah.
So it basically just turns into a glorified babysitting service, and I mean, how's that gonna affect a little grade school kid? I mean, it's not like these schools are great places to be in the first place, but now they're going to come in and they're going to sit there and watch a movie all day. That just, I sympathize with the teachers maybe wanting more money, but the effect of what they're doing now is negatively harming these impressionable little kids.
Well, and I want to talk about one thing and kind of point out some hypocrisy here in a minute. But before that, I'll just tell you what they have done in order to keep the schools open is they've hired 400 substitute teachers, and they're sending 2,000 credentialed administrators back into the classroom, which is great, because what tends to happen in public school is they add all these layers and layers of administration, and none of the money really gets down to the teachers. So they keep adding new jobs, new positions, but they're not teaching positions. They're administrative positions, overseeing something else or some other aspect of it. And they have massive amounts of money being poured into basically black holes of administration and red tape rather than going into the classroom where it should be.
I saw a graph recently that showed the U.S. entire educational system all the way up through college from over the past, 15 decades or however long it's been. And it showed it scaled the number of the teachers with respect to the enrollment per 1,000 students or whatever. And that line has stayed pretty flat, but the administrative line went pretty flat until maybe 60 years ago or so. And then it just ballooned,
just skyrocketed
to where it's like the two lines are now, it's like probably 8 times higher than the line of the teachers, because the teachers have stayed with the same scale with respect to the number of students.
So what's great is that they've taken 2,000 of these pencil pushers, paper pushers, and they've forced them into the classroom because they're credentialed to teach school. So you got think about this. There are 2,000 people in the Los Angeles school district doing administrative work that are qualified to teach. And all they did was just say, okay, all you guys are done with your administrative work. You're just going to go teach. They could cut out you want to get your 6%, lop some heads in your administration area, right? You could save a ton of money just by lopping out all these administrators that you don't really need and putting that money into raises or whatever you want.
But they're unionized too, I'm sure.
I'm sure they are, yeah. They're all unionized.
Amy said, I've also seen the teachers teach kids slave songs to sing at protests on behalf of the teachers union, using classroom time to prep kids for protests planned before school time.
Yeah, of course. Well, here's the thing. I remember when the kids were protesting gun violence and they were out and they were leaving school to go march, and a lot of people were really negative on that. Oh, what are these kids doing out in school? I thought it was a great opportunity for the teachers to help teach kids about civil disobedience. I don't care whether I completely disagree with why they're protesting, but what a great opportunity to teach kids about civil disobedience. This is how we peacefully assemble. This is how we as a people voice ourselves in a republic, in a constitutional republic, and this is how we affect positive change and raise our voices together. What an awesome opportunity. I do think that, especially when you get up, not necessarily in the grade school, which is what Amy's talking about, but as you get up into high school and teachers are looking at striking, everybody knows it might happen. I don't mind teachers taking the time to say, listen, this is why we're striking. This is what we're looking for. And this is part of a capitalist system. Now, they're operating in a non-capitalist way because it's a government funded, but it's a very capitalist thing a very free market thing to protest and to strike. And so I don't have an issue with that either. The hypocrisy I have is that these same people who are striking are the same people who say education should be free, quote unquote free. Be free education for people. The government should fund. Well, if education should be free and they don't have the money to pay you your raises, shouldn't you just work for free? If somebody doesn't have the ability to pay, shouldn't you just work for free for them? Because that's really what you're saying when you're saying free education or free health care, is you're really saying if someone doesn't have the means to pay, you should just work for free for them. If you can't afford the surgery, the person who is performing the surgery should just work for free. Or if he's got to get paid, what we're going to do is we're going to steal from somebody who's already worked, meaning we're going to make them work for free for a little bit so that you can pay this guy to do your surgery. We're requiring somebody else to work for free for your benefit. And so what I say to the teachers union is, look, if the government's saying they can't afford your 6% raises, don't you have an obligation to work for free? Because it is really about the kids, isn't it? It's not really about you and your 6% pay increase. Why don't you guys forego your 6% pay increase to hire some more nurses and some more counselors? Isn't it really about the kids?
Their education is their right.
That's right. It is their right. And you're depriving them of their rights as children by choosing not to show up and do your job. All for the almighty dollar. All for a 6% pay raise. Shouldn't you work for less? Shouldn't you be happy? But see the shouldn't you just be content with doing a good job as a teacher and not worry about the money? Now, of course, you realize how ridiculous that sounds. But my point being is that the same people who will argue in one case that things should be free and that people ought to be happy with less, when the shoe is on the other foot and now they're faced with not getting their raises or they're faced with pay decreases or benefit decreases, they will strike. They will cease to work. And it is not about the children. It is absolutely about them and them getting what they want. Because I guarantee you, if the city had come back and said, you know what, we'll give you your teachers, we'll give you your administrators, we can't give you any raises. We can do the other stuff, but we can't give you any raises. They would have said no. It's about the money. They want more money. They want more people. And those nurses and counselors, those are administrators. That's administrative staff. And that's what they really want. Layers of bureaucracy, more administrators, less work for the teachers, more money for the teachers. I would take a look at grades and I would say, why do you think you deserve more money? Look at the performance of your school versus any other school in the state, in the nation.
You know what's ironic is that one of the reasons why it might not necessarily be in this case, but I'm thinking through this, that education is one of the most strictly regulated industries in the United States because of all the accreditation and all the different licensing and stuff that you have to go through to get to it. So that restricts the number of teaching opportunities for teachers. There's specific private schools, there's charter schools, there's these public schools, but there's probably fewer schools than there would be if it was easier to start and run a school. So these teachers would have more opportunities. There would be more competition for their services if it wasn't for their actual current employer restricting the ability for other people to start their own schools to give them more opportunities to go earn more money.
Yes, and the very union that's now forcing them to strike, and I guarantee you not all of them want to strike. I don't mean to rope every teacher into this. We're really talking about the union itself. and the teachers who think that this strike is a good idea. That's not everybody. But the unions themselves prevent competition. And they don't want to see. One of the things that these people are arguing about, and one of the things they're upset about, is they want to make sure. There's a lot of talk of charter schools in this city because the education they get in the public school is so bad. It's like the second worst in the nation. So, I mean, during our negotiation, I just sit down and be like, you guys suck at what you do. I mean, look at the numbers. Everybody has public education. Every K through 12 in America is publicly funded by their state governments.
So explain to us why we shouldn't be paying you less.
Yeah. So explain to me why I shouldn't cut your pay until you guys figure out how to do a better job. And they'll have 1,000 excuses as to why it's not their fault. But the point is, look, I'm just looking, how do I gauge results? How do I gauge your productivity? How do I gauge how effective you are at your job? Clearly, by any measuring stick we use, you guys suck at what you do. So why on earth would I pay you more money? And now they're talking about opening up charter schools, more charter schools. And what they want to make sure of is the teachers' unions, they want to make sure if these charter schools open, meaning more competition, that they won't cut funding for the public schools. So see, we know in virtually every case that charter schools are more effective, get better results, have higher graduation rates than public school.
And that entire idea, the idea that you would cut funding to our thing if that thing opens up, implies that we know that thing will be better than our thing.
Exactly.
But we want you to keep pumping money into this thing that is worse instead of this thing that is better because it's all about the children?
We want to make sure that we can limit our competition, and we want to make sure that we can continue to be bad at what we do and not face repercussions for that.
And what we do is ostensibly providing education for children. How do you possibly have this mindset about providing education for children?
I know. Well, and listen, I've listened to the head of the teachers unions talk before, and they have 1,000 excuses as well. We don't have funding for this, or we're not being supported by that. They got 1,000 different excuses. And to all the good teachers out, I know good teachers, and so please don't misunderstand. All you ladies and men who are teachers out there, do not misunderstand. I know anybody who's a good teacher. Because my kids go to private school, and so I get a chance to talk with really good teachers about the problems in public school. Many of them come from public school. And one of the problems that they're constantly talking about, we're trying to do our job. The bureaucracy keeps us from being better teachers.
Amy says that the school she was at had the opportunity to become a charter school. The teachers told the students it was Walmart trying to buy their school and fire all the teachers.
Yeah, exactly. And that because the teachers union loses power. So my point is, there's nothing wrong with unions, but we need to understand that the company, in this case the government, and it's hard for me to say this even, but the government is not necessarily the bad guy, and the teachers are not the good guys. The employer is not always the good guy in this situation. He has a lot of power. If he's good at what he does, if he's worked on his skill set, if he's built himself up, he has an opportunity to go somewhere else and be paid far more or better than he's being treated better than he is now. For most of the people who are striking and who want this strike to happen, they're really substandard teachers who cannot get a better job, who are performing substandard, who do not deserve a raise, and who shouldn't be getting one, whether or not the government could quote-unquote afford it or not. But anyway, I got to tell you about ZipRecruiter before we go too far. Guys, if you are an employer, 2019, you might be looking to hire some new people, expand your business, whatever it is, 2019, we're getting started. Now's the time to do it. But where do you go? I remember I was trying to hire somebody to do some administrative stuff for me a couple of years ago, and it was a nightmare. I tried for months. I went online. I filled out the forms myself, and all I was getting was garbage back. I interviewed a few people, couldn't find anybody that worked. And finally, I just went to ZipRecruiter. This was long before they were ever a sponsor for us. And I went to ZipRecruiter. I filled out the form. I used their analytics system that they've got to help me pick out the keywords that would attract the right people. And within 2 days, I had at least a dozen really qualified applicants who were banging down my door, looking in some cases to move all the way across the country to Kansas to work with me. that was, I mean, I have never had a better experience trying to hire somebody than when I went to ZipRecruiter. And right now, my listeners can try ZipRecruiter for free at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/Stapleton. If you love this show, show your support and to ZipRecruiter by going to ZipRecruiter.com/Stapleton. That's ZipRecruiter.com/Stapleton. Really, really excellent company. What they do is they go out and they post your job on like 200 different job sites. And so you don't have to go and do that. They do it all for you. They help you with what you're looking for in terms of your job posting so that you can attract the right people. They really go above and beyond to get a quality product out and make sure you're getting good people. And go check them out, ZipRecruiter.com/Stapleton. You know, we got this de Blasio thing. I think, have we covered the school? Is there anything else I've missed on the school stuff that we ought to make a point of? Because the de Blasio thing will take longer than the last 15 minutes we've got here. What is there anything we haven't really touched on with that? I feel like I've been really fair.
I think so.
Right?
I mean, the only thing I might add would just be that in a lot of cases, the teachers are crappy teachers, but then at the same time, they're also being put in crappy situations with, you know, the teacher to student ratio isn't great and their infrastructure isn't great. So they do have a point that things about their current working situation could be improved, but those are things that they're not just going to strong arm the government into fixing. And those things that are bad, like the class sizes and everything, those aren't a bug about government schools. Those are a feature.
Yeah.
Like that's the nature of the beast.
Well, and I would make a couple of points on that is number one. So let's say that there is the class size to teacher is too great. There's too many kids for every teacher.
For example, the last school that Amy was at before she moved up to Washington a few years ago, the one teacher there had 35 fifth graders.
Yeah, that's really hard. So let's hire another teacher. Let's hire another fifth grade teacher, right? And in order to do that, teacher A is going to have to take a 15% pay cut, but class size is going to be reduced in half. She's going to have the quality of the education she's going to be able to deliver will be far superior than it was before. And isn't it all about the kids? I mean, shouldn't you want that as a teacher to have a better education system for your kids? And yeah, it means you make a little bit less, but I mean, just think of all the kids you're going to help. It really is about the children. And of course, that would be a gigantic no-go if that ever happened. But the biggest problem, I think, in schools today, because there are good teachers, so there's a lot of problems inside the system, but there's a lot of problems in the home, too. I mean, one of the biggest problems with poor performing kids is low expectations at home. We coddle these kids now. We don't expect them to perform. We don't lay down an expectation that, no, you will excel. Mediocrity is not acceptable. Listen, if your kid's a C student and he's working his butt off and all he can get is C's, good on him. He's a C student and he's busting his tail to produce C's. That's what you should expect out of your kids. You should expect exceptionalism from them. You should see that. You should see them working as though they expect it from themselves. We've lost that. A lot. I mean, I just can't count how many times I've had this conversation with people. People don't know how to get their kids off the video games or off the television. It's like, it's real simple. You just shut it off. Oh, how am I going to do it? It's like, dude, your kids run your house. They run your life. How can you allow that to happen? This is not something that anybody should ever be worried about. It's like, listen, you should demand from your kids exceptionalism with the things that they do, and you should make sure that they're performing. And unfortunately, because teachers don't have the support of parents at home, they're unable to do what they need to do.
And our entire conception of education is pretty flawed. The entire structure of graded education was based on was it the Austrian method or something like that from the 1800s that was explicitly designed to create factory drones and to build armies, to have compliant servile citizens. That was the entire idea of, we're going to put all these people that are about the same age in the same room, have them all study the same thing all at the same time together. Human brains are way more individualized than that.
Right.
And the one saying I heard before is, it said something about how if you're going if you're going to judge a goldfish on its ability to climb a tree, it's always going to fail.
But is there an efficient way to do what you're talking? Because I've heard a lot of people talk about that, and I'm just wondering, is there an efficient way to educate someone? Well, certainly not in the education system that we've constructed now. But what you're saying is, look, if Judy is good at dance, she should learn her ABCs and how to read and write and do basic arithmetic, and then she should go to a dance school where she learns how to dance and she learns the intricacies of that, because that's really where her talent and skill lies. She's a fish, she ought to be swimming, whereas another guy ought to be in accounting classes.
Yeah, why does she need to memorize the capitals of the world or something, or whatever other thing, if that's not going to have any bearing on, and especially now when we have basically everything, every part of human knowledge ever contained in a little box that we carry around in our pockets.
Right.
Rote memorization and those types of things aren't necessary for the majority of people to learn. So what you're doing is you're taking someone's brain and you're bogging it down with a whole bunch of information that they don't actually need, and then you're force feeding it to them in an environment that may not be conducive to them actually adapting to that information.
Right.
So then we get things like ADHD or whatever that really just seems like it's what happens when you have a hyperactive little boy who wants to go out and break things and run around and climb trees and break legs or whatever, and you're putting him in this little room and forcing him to sit on his hands and look at, like, you're trying to break his brain. That's literally what it is. It's like he's a horse and you're trying to break his will, break him down and make him compliant and learn about things in the way that you think that he should learn about them.
Yeah. No, I do agree, and I think one of the things that I've always been really upset about, and this is going to run contrary, may seem like it runs contrary to what I said before, but I look at it, I don't know why kids have homework. I'm just, the more I look at this, the more angry I get about homework. Is you drop that kid off, and he's there for 8 hours of the day. But most people work an 8-hour shift, and they come home and they're done working. They get their 8 hours in, and they put in a full day's work at 8 hours. If I give you my kids for 8 hours, and 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, whatever it is, 250 days a year, however many days a year they have school every year, if you can't get education taught in that amount of time, I feel like you're doing something wrong.
It seems like either he should have homework or he should be going to the school, not both.
Right, yeah, yeah. So maybe it's 3 hours of school and then there's homework. But I happen to know you were homeschooled, right? Mm-hmm. So I know guys who were homeschooled and they went to school like 4 hours a day. And then because you weren't just sitting at a table 8 hours a day, were you?
My mom was.
How did you do it?
My mom was very routinized, so she had strict schedules. You get up at this time,
Mm-hmm.
at this time you do this, breakfast at this time, shower, everything all in the right order. So I had half the day basically spent doing chores and then half the day doing homework. And it was typically in the same order because that's just the way that my mom ran the house. But I've heard of this thing called unschooling, where it's like homeschooling, except it's not structured at all.
Right.
So your job, as a parent, your relationship to the child is to facilitate them learning the things that their brain is naturally inclined to and protecting them, like providing them the opportunities to do that and keeping them safe and helping them along the way as they do that. So some of these parents, they raise their kids, they don't force them to learn how to read. It's like, so the kid's like, I want to learn how to read. I want to read this book. Okay, well, this is how you read. But you don't say, all right, well, you're 3 now, so we're going to teach you how to read.
The only problem I have with that is that what if the kid has absolutely no interest in reading? And that's a skill he has to learn. Like, it's not reading, writing, and basic mathematics, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division is critical to operate in any society. Right? Even if you don't know your multiplication tables, I got a cell phone here, I can do 5 times 6. You have to understand the principle of what 5 times 6 is.
I think it's inevitable that that a child is, no one's going to never want to learn how to read, really, because like you said, it's essential. You have to have it to do anything. So this one lady I was listening to with her son, he just wasn't interested in reading.
Yeah.
And so she wasn't forcing him to. He was perfectly happy accomplishing things. And then finally one day he was like, well, I want to know how to read. He was like 8 or 10 or something like that. And the very first book he read was the first Harry Potter book. He just picked it up and learned how to read and read the book. So it was when his brain was ready to learn how to read, it was just bam.
But he didn't learn it until he was 10?
Not really. Not in any type of structured, organized setting. I'm not necessarily advocating for that. Yeah. I'm saying that exists. It exists that kids, when they want to learn how to learn something, boop, it'll happen. So you don't have to sit them down in a strict, rigid setting and say, now is when you learn this thing. Because you're not optimizing their brain.
No, I get that. But how do you, is there a way to do that at scale? So even if you have, so let's say that you take the government system out and you just create small institutions of learning. Inside of that institution, there has to be a formula for doing that at scale with a lot of different kids, at a lot of different places. And what you're talking about, I've seen people do it at high school level. So I've seen, they already know how to read and write, and so we put them into high school, and they can basically study whatever they want to. If they want to sit around and play video games all day, that's fine. If they want to study ballet, that's fine. We facilitate them learning whatever's interesting to them, and then they go and get their GED, and then if they want to go to college, they can.
If that person and if that kid doesn't ever want to, like if they want to spend the rest of their life sitting and playing video games and they never want to make anything of themselves, you're not going to force them to. You can try, but it's just going to result in personality disorders, and they're just going to rebel against it the whole time, and they're always going to revert back to just playing video games all day.
It's funny, we talk about this. I'm so much of a self-starter that I can't, like, for example, I know people who live for retirement. They're looking at retirement and they're ready. I don't think I will ever retire. I think that's the same thing as I might as well just be dead.
Retirement is a very new concept in the history of the human race.
I just don't think that's something I would ever be interested in doing. And I'm a very big on self-starting, so I'm always learning something new. My brain is always working and active. And we were having a conversation with somebody yesterday or the day before, and we were talking about just the stupidity and how little people understood. And she said to me, are people really that dumb? And I said, it's not that they're that dumb. It's that it's just not that hard to be better than the other guy. I mean, if you have any sort of self-drive in you at all, if you care at all about the work that you do and the quality of your product, all you got to do is just care a little bit, and you'll be better than 80% of the people around you.
Probably more than that.
Yeah, most of them don't care at all. Most of them are just punching a clock. And so this is why I say, when I talk to people, I look at them and I say the vast majority of people are mediocre to subpar, mainly because they just don't care and they're not interested. So what concerns me about the process that you're talking about is understanding that the vast majority of people don't really care. I worry that we may raise a society of people who are just kind of, the expectation is, I can just kind of do whatever I want whenever I want to do it, and I choose to kind of be lazy and just wander.
A couple of points. First, the live video just cut out.
Okay.
Secondly, there's a bunch of really good comments going on in. We've got a couple of like teachers and stuff that are commenting on stuff in here, and Amy. So one thing, you've got a comment here from Amy's mom. She says, last night on 60 Minutes, the episode was about artificial intelligence. In the future, Dr. Lee proposes that robots and computers will teach classes, and these computers will sort out which kids have the potential to learn and which ones don't. So that sounds fascinating and also terrifying.
It's scary, too, yeah.
Then Amy says, if more people learned about the functions of behavior, which are access, attention, escape, and stimulation, teaching other individuals how to do something would be so much easier. It just doesn't work on a group level.
Yeah, and so sorry to all of you who are watching the live feed. I'll get this set back up, but I forgot to plug my computer, and I was in such a hurry with everything else we were doing, and it just died. So hang on just a second. Yeah, this has really become an amateur hour with this video. Okay, I'm just going to stream this again, and we'll have two little streams here. Okay, so we're back running now. Sorry about that, everybody. I forgot to plug the stupid thing in. So in the last couple of minutes here, basically what Matt was saying is that in the future, AI will have the ability to teach the classes and sort out. I think as AI becomes a real thing and you have computers that can think and learn the way humans do, I think it's going to open up entirely new worlds for us to pursue pretty much whatever creative passion we have. Because you're going to shift the necessity of productivity from the individual, from the human being to the machine. And virtually, you'll just have an AI machine, and most of the productivity gains will come out of that, and there will not be the need to work nearly as much. The standard of living will become so high, and things will become so cheap that you really won't need jobs the way we have them today. I think that's really where we're going to end up. I love the idea of AI.
And I think that a downside of that, I love the idea as well. The first thing that comes to mind as the downside of that is that the people who are going to be replaced first are going to be the people with the smallest talent stacks,
Correct.
the people who are capable of the least. So, number one, for you, the listener, have that in mind as you're developing your own talent stack and as you're having children and preparing them to live in a world that's potentially like that. But then that also means that there's going to have to be some type of, I don't know if it's going to be a business or some type of way to be able to provide a way for those people who are being replaced by the robots, quote unquote, have those people be able to provide value, some way to be able to support themselves so they aren't being just steamrolled by society.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know what the transition will look like, but I think the final product is going to be one that everybody's happy with, that lifts the quality of life for everybody, no matter what your income level is, that raises your quality of life. A lot of people are freaked out that all these jobs are going to go away. And yeah, if you, like I said, if you have no skills and your job is easily replaceable by somebody who can do basic math and work at a counter serving French fries, then yeah, be worried. Be very worried. Start working on your skill set now. And
what that means is that, to put it in another language, what that means is that pretty soon you are no longer going to provide value to anybody
Correct.
with what you're doing.
Right.
People will not value the work that you're doing.
Yep.
So that's not their problem. That's your problem. You need to figure out a way to provide value to people.
Nobody values the scissor sharpener anymore. That guy who used to roll through the streets with his cart and he would sharpen your knives and your scissors. That guy doesn't exist anymore.
Or the milk delivery man, or the guy who went and put out all the street lights.
Yep. Those guys don't have jobs anymore. There was a time when they were highly valued in terms of what the product they provided, and they don't anymore. There's the weaver on the loom. She doesn't have a job anymore. You've got to figure out what it is that you can do in the 21st century that's going to provide value to others. And the more value you can figure out how to provide, the better off you're going to be, because those low talent, low skill jobs are the ones that will go out first. And you don't want to be that guy. So again, this entire show is built around identifying the problem, explaining what it is that's happening, and then empowering you to go out and to make better choices and do more. And so I invite you guys to listen in. What's up?
Your buddy just showed up.
Who's that? Peter Pooler?
Peter Pooler. First thing he said was, we understand Jason's up there in age, so we know new technology can be tough.
Gosh,
and then he said, what we value is a live stream that doesn't cut in and out.
Touche on that one, because I'm pretty upset about this live streaming situation, but we are working on it, and I appreciate your patience. And so if you don't want to give us the $5 anymore, I somehow will survive. But anyway, I do invite you guys to come and listen to the Q&A that I'm going to hold here in just a little while, about 4 p.m. And if you don't happen to catch it live, you can always watch the recording. But thanks for being here today. Guys, if you like the show, we're rebuilding, guys. We're rebuilding this thing with kind of a new direction and a new concept on the way we want to talk about the principles of liberty and free markets and all of that stuff. And I need you to do me a favor. Number one is download and listen to the show every single day. We do it 3 days a week. It's just 3 hours. You can do it on a commute. Need you guys listening every day. Second thing is, please share the show with somebody else. If you like the show, somebody else is going to like it too. So go make sure that you're sharing the show with somebody. And then last but not least, please go to iTunes, leave us a rating and review, 5 stars if you think the show is worth that. If you do all 3 of those things, I will be back here tomorrow or Wednesday to do this all over again. Until then, be safe, be good. We'll talk to you then.